Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I haven't done a video in quite a while, for which I apologize. I actually did shoot a video, but I just did not upload it. So that will be coming shortly as well. And yes, today I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about the London Book Fair that I attended last week, and we'll start off with day one, which was the Writers' Summit. Yay! You see, so this is the whole agenda. As you can see, it's it looks quite long. It was actually, to be honest, quite a long day, but all I can say is that it was amazing. It was just so, I don't know, it was just so cool because I started writing my book and I knew that I wanted to get it published, right? But I had no idea what the process was, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought, okay, let me write a book. I'll worry about the process later, which is what happened. However, when I came to what happens after, the process is so tedious and so long. My God, like, you need to start first querying agents because most publishing houses, they don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. So yeah, basically you have you first need to reach out to that agent, then they need to approve you, then they need, you need to do all of these edits based on what the agent is saying, and then finally he or she will send your manuscript to publishers, and then after, again, sometimes has passed, maybe you will get a response, maybe you will not, maybe you will get this coveted advance that you hear authors talking about. And what happens after, it's just, again, quite long, tedious, boring, and not all that lucrative at the end of the day. So I will talk a little bit more about a couple of takeaways that I had, because I did have an epiphany throughout the summit and throughout the remaining 2 days of the London Book Fair. But I just wanted to start off by saying how amazing it was, just because for the first time, I do have I have one friend who writes, and I have some acquaintances who write, but it's very different when you're writing just for you and you're dabbling, maybe you're just starting out, and it's very different when you're writing and you want to get published. It's just a different vibe. So for quite a long time, I honestly was feeling like I'm just doing this in a bubble, like in this, just glass bubble that nothing can penetrate. And, publishers are these scary people, agents as well. And it turns out, no, not at all. Like, publishers and agents, they genuinely want for writers to succeed, because, writers start the whole domino effect, right? Writers are the one who basically get the whole process going. There's no book deals without books, essentially. So yeah, it was very, very cool to see that publishers are not scary. I even had a short conversation over lunch one of the days, and I met this random publisher from the Netherlands, and I was like, oh my God, I used to think that publishers are so scary. And she was like, are you kidding me? I'm glad that you saw that we're not. But yeah, it was just very fun. Everyone, I don't know, it was very cool, because I did meet a few publishers, and all of them were like, oh my God, I cannot wait for a few years from now when you publish your book, because I was telling them a little bit what the book was about, and they were like, oh, this sounds interesting. Do you talk about it on social media? Turns out I do not. So this was one of the key takeaways. But anyway, I'm digressing a lot, because there's just so many thoughts in my mind. But yeah, it was super cool. It was also extremely cool to see other writers and other authors, and just people who are kind of going through the same things that I'm going through. And it was just very funny to explain to each other why we write and why we have to write, because there's just no other option. And we were just sitting on this round table, all of us, like, talking about this, and I was like, it's the first time I've had such a conversation. It was like, it was just so genuinely exciting, and probably to no one else outside of the writing industry in general. Like, probably people would think, okay, who are these weirdos? But anyway, it was super cool. And yes, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about my takeaways. So about what happened. So there were a lot of panels and sessions throughout the entire day. As I said, it was quite a tiring day, to be honest. Mostly because I wouldn't say that the information was necessarily new, in the sense that, I've read books, I've read, I've gone to courses. I haven't talked that much to people in person about this, but yeah, overall the information wasn't super groundbreaking that I was finding out in terms of just knowledge. But then I had so many just aha moments and epiphanies, sprinkled throughout, that really helped me get, I guess, helped me get my brain straight, because you just have so many ideas, and somehow you need to put them in order. So yeah, we started with my publishing journey, which, to be honest, was super interesting because they aligned several panelists who all had a different, probably the four different types of publishing journeys you can have. So one was a self-published author. Actually, well, she had COVID, so she couldn't attend, but it would have been very cool to hear her experience. So she was I think she, what was it? Like, she was first self-published, and then, she got a book deal off her self-publishing, and now she's traditionally published as well. Then we had Orna Ross, who basically she's one of the co-founders of the Alliance for Independent Authors, and so she had the opposite journey. So she started out with being traditionally published with Penguin, nonetheless. And then two books in, she was like, yeah, this is not really working out for me. I have no creative say in this whatsoever. They apparently wanted to classify her novel as a chick lit, and she was like, to me, it was a lot more. I mean, there was a love story, but it wasn't a chick lit. So she didn't have, that much creative freedom, so she decided to self-publish, and she hasn't looked back since. So that was super interesting to see. Then we had Samantha Shannon, who is a fantasy author. I mean, to be honest, I could relate to her the most, just because she was younger than everyone else, and she had her job, her 9 to 5 job, and then she wrote her fantasy series on the side, and then she got traditionally published. Her book became a #1 bestseller, which is just what I would like from just my wishful thinking from my own workings. And yeah, then she quit her job, and now she's a full-time published author. And then finally we had Kate Rhodes, who is a crime novelist, and honestly, she was just so lovely. She was, one of these people that you just wanna, I don't know, like, you just wanna talk to her, and she was so calm, and she just has this very, I don't know, just a very pleasant vibe and very pleasant presence. And for her, basically she's just traditionally published as well, and she started off not being so successful, but then over the years she got more and more book deals, and yeah. So I'm not gonna go through all of the sessions, but just this first one, I think they nailed it right out of the gate. It was super cool, just to see all of the different ways that you could get published, and that there are different ways. Because I think when I started writing back in the day, way back in 2016, I thought, I just want to get traditionally published, and that's it. That's all I want, nothing else. Self-published is, for people who cannot make it as traditionally published authors, and that's not actually true. I mean, I guess in my mind, if you are traditionally published, it means that there's an element of validation from other people, which is probably what most people are looking for, like, just psychologically, just and maybe even subconsciously, because you think, oh, I will definitely have an editor who will look at my book, and I will know that I will be putting forth the best book that I can, because there will be this amazing editor who will help me. Well, newsflash for you, editors don't really edit. I genuinely don't know why that is. Like, I listened to a podcast, a writing podcast, and one of the guests was an editor, and she was like, yeah, we don't really do editing because we have so many other things to do. And I was like, what other things do you have to do? Like, it's your job title to like edit, right? That's engraved in your job title. Like, what else do you do? Because honestly, like, if you look at books or courses about how to get published traditionally, they all tell you, oh yeah, you should hire an editor beforehand and edit your own things. And I'm like, I mean, okay, but then what's the point of the in-house editor? Like, what do they do? Do they just look for typos? And then, I mean, you see a traditionally published book with a typo still in it, and you're like, well, that's not great, is it? So yeah. Anyway, so one of the epiphanies that I actually had was that self-publishing is a rather viable option, and especially if you want to make a living as a writer, as an author, quite frankly, because it was very cool, because there was another panel towards the end of the day that okay, I don't want to mispronounce their names. Yes, the session was called Your Book, Your Choice. Very true. And basically, again, they had 4 people on the panel. They were talking about, there was this representative of Bookouture, which is a company that supports self-published authors, and they would do, as far as I understood, they would do the formatting for you and they would do the marketing for you, which I assume is one of the scariest things for authors, because you do need to put yourself out there, and you do need to be at least a little bit familiar with social media, at least a little bit familiar with how algorithms work, because it's all important. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be self-published, most probably on Amazon Kindle, you need to know how like the whole shebang goes. But basically, yeah, so there was the representative of Bookouture, there was this lady, Joanna Penn, who apparently is like a guru in the self-publishing world, because she self-published in 2009, when people were still, like, okay, you're self-published, loser, Now, as far as I understand, it's not so much looked down upon. So, that's good news I guess, for people who want to make a living as a writer, as an author. And then we had a representative of Penguin and a representative of HarperCollins, right? Yes, Harper Fiction. Okay. So, it was, again, super, super interesting, because the questions that they asked them were, in my opinion, extremely relevant. Mostly they asked about, first of all, the whole process, which with traditional publishing is super, super hard and tedious, as I said. So you need to find an agent who takes 15% of your advance. Let's put it like that. That's the industry standard. They can take, higher or lower, but, generally 15% is where it's at. Then you have, the whole publishing, like getting a book deal, then getting your advance, which I used to think, I don't know, you hear these amazing advances of $1 million and whatever, $100,000, and you're like, wow, okay, so if I get $100,000, I mean, for sure I'll be able to, quit my job and just pursue writing full time. But there's a caveat. I mean, first of all, an advance needs to be earned out. What that means is that that is pretty much the only amount of money you will receive until let's say that your advance is $100,000. So until your book makes in royalties $100,000, you're not gonna see any cent above that. So after it reaches $100,000, then you will start to basically earn royalties from your book. And is that going to happen? If you're a first-time author, if you don't have, a very big platform, chances are maybe not. So this is another thing that was super, super interesting to know, was that so the representative of Penguin, that's what he said, because they asked him what is the average advance that you've seen in your industry. And so what he said was that, I mean, obviously he's seen the $1 million advances, but he said that happens only to celebrities. So as a regular person, a mortal, a mere mortal, probably, that's not the advice I will get. He said that in general, like the lowest one was 5,000, pounds, obviously, because we were in the UK, so 5,000 pounds. And then on average, he said that it was the average, sorry, I'm bundling up my words, but the average advance that he got was, that he saw people get was 20,000 pounds, which honestly, not that much when you consider that 15% goes to your agent. And then the other caveat, it gets transferred in 3 installments. So basically you get part of it, so the first 1/3 you get when the contract is signed, when your book deal is being signed. You get 1/3 when the when the book is ready, yeah, when you have the physical copy with you. And then the third one happens when the book is published. So, and that can take up to even 2 years sometimes. I mean, let's say that the average is a year and a half, but it can take up to 2 years. So within the scope of 2 years, you will be receiving $20,000, which honestly is nothing. And you still need to earn it out. And a lot of for a lot of authors, that will just be it, because publishers, the way they look at books, and they understand them, is that about 80% of the books they sign will be duds. They will not sell well at all. And then 20% maybe will sell better, with a couple of percent probably going, becoming bestsellers. So they're already aware of this. And the lower, which is another thing, the lower your advances, that means they will have not that many expectations of your book. So that's very encouraging. And they will not do marketing for you, or at least not that much. Maybe they will do a book launch, like one book launch here, maybe a book launch there. Maybe they will do something on social media, like a post, again, here and there sprinkled in. And then everything else you will have to do on your own, like what they said that they expect of authors to do was publicity, which means showing up to events, going to doing readings, but kind of you're organizing everything on your own. So I was like, okay. And then the royalty rates for all of this are, so basically, okay, so this is what the girl from Harper Fiction said, was that for hardcover they get 20%, 25%, sorry, 25%, and for paperback it was 10%. So what when I was Googling this, what I found out was that for hardcover, yes, the percentages vary between 20 to 30% royalty, and then for paperback it was around between 10 to 20%, and then for ebook it was between 20 and 30%. So overall, not that much, right? So let's say that your book is $10, you will pretty much be getting $1-2 at best, yeah, literally at best, from this. And yeah, so all in all, it's quite, yeah, overall, you cannot really expect to make a living as a writer. Now I'm seeing that I'm going on for quite some time, so I just wanted to briefly take a look at what is happening with self-publishing, because honestly, it was quite interesting. During the London Book Fair, there was a session about how to make a living as a writer, and the general gist of it was that you cannot. It was literally what the lady said, and it was three ladies who were, they're all traditionally published, and they were talking about so many things that you had to do if you wanted to be a full-time writer, at least in the traditional sense. Like you had to go, do paid speaking engagements, you had to, visit schools, you had to visit, you had to apply for grants. I mean, grant is amazing, but it lasts for what, a year, 2 years? Like, it's not a long-term sustainable way of making a living, honestly. A residency was another thing that one of the women suggested, which honestly, I'd much rather do online marketing than physically go to someone and tell them, hey, you're an establishment. Would you like a full-time, a resident author. You know, like what? Who does that? I don't know. It just sounds very, very old school. Not something that, yeah, most people would be into, at least nowadays. I don't know. I mean, I know that back in the day, for example, I come from Bulgaria, so maybe that is different, but it was very interesting because my father used to work in this factory during communism, and I mean, they had a resident painter, like an artist. It's very funny, or resident actors in the factory, and you're like, what? Okay. But I don't know, I don't imagine this happening nowadays. Anyway, I mean, for sure it does, because she said that she did it and she was a resident at this, I don't even remember the establishment exactly, but anyway, so she's done this and they do pay you, but again, you know, it's barely enough to for you to get by. So yeah, my first epiphany, my biggest actually epiphany, was just actually doing self-publishing. Yeah, it's I mean, I can do a whole other separate video just for that. And yeah, but self-publishing looks more and more appealing, if I'm being honest, because you have Kindle Direct Publishing, which yeah, I will actually do a separate video just for that. But Kindle Direct Publishing, it offers up to 70% royalties, right? I have their flyer here. They were at the conference, but yeah, so they offer 70% royalty or 35% royalty. And I will go into more details in a separate video about what that means and how it works. However, just know that, I mean, first of all, your books are not going to be, you know, the markup is not going to, like the original price is not going to be that high. I used to think, oh, you know, I'll publish a book and then I'll price it at $10. And then it was like, yeah, maybe not. You know, when you look at, depending on which genre you want to publish in, when you look at, you know, the top bestsellers, they're not really that expensive. I mean, in the UK, in the top 100 chart, there were a lot of books that were $1.99, you know, just very, very low. So yeah, anyway, but honestly, you would still get a lot of money from that, because if you get 70% off of, you know, a $3 book, that's still what, like, let's say that you price your book at $3 and you get 70%, that's $2 that you get back, which is, I mean, you know, it's still quite good. And there are other things like Kindle Unlimited and you know, just other things that you can do. So that was one thing that I'll probably, I'm not probably, for sure, I will try self-publishing. And so I decided to actually start writing, because I've been thinking about this for quite some time. But yeah, I will do self-publishing in the genre of crime, and in particular cozy crime, because those are books that I absolutely adore to read. I just cannot get enough of them. That's the type of content that I consume just on my own. Also thrillers, psychological thrillers in particular. But as of, you know, as for writing, I think I would feel more comfortable doing a cozy mystery series. And it's something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. So I thought, well, there's clearly a market for it in the self-publishing industry. So, you know, why not give it a go? And yes, in a separate video, I'll talk about the authors that I met who do this, and it was super cool. You know, it was just very nice to see how it's actually being done. Even though they don't write specifically what I'm looking to write, but you know, there's room for everyone, as the saying goes. So yeah, it was. So that's one thing that I had as a takeaway. Then another thing that I had as a takeaway was, you know, they kept talking to us about, you know, your author platform, and I was like, well, I do have an author platform, don't I? Right? I have my YouTube channel and I have my Instagram and I have my website where I talk about what? I talk about how to be a writer, which is very different from an author platform. I mean, it can, you know, supplement it, right? It can complement it rather. However, the people that I'm attracting here are not going to be my readers. They're going to be other, you know, other writers, other people who want to basically do basically write and finish their book, which is amazing and it's super cool, but that percentage is much smaller compared to, you know, the readership, right, that you would like to attract. So you know, shockingly, I I would like to start using my channel to promote my young adult fiction book, which, by the way, I'm still looking to get traditionally published. So this is one thing that I haven't given up on. I don't know what it is. It's just in my mind that makes sense. So I will try to get my young adult book traditionally published, and then I will try to get my, well, not try to, because it honestly depends on me, but I will get my crime series self-published. And for that, I will need to create a separate channel and a separate, you know, Instagram and a separate website. Because why? I mean, this was another cool thing that I found out from one of the agents at the conference, was that even if you have 1 million followers, and let's say that you are a travel vlogger, whatever, like you do something with traveling and extreme sports, let's say, and then you want to write a children's book that has nothing to do with extreme sports, you know, it's just a regular children's book about ferries, let's say. And what the lady said was that they would actually not care about the following all that much. I mean, sure, maybe, you know, some book sales are going to come off of, you know, that 1 million followers. However, they're not the target audience, so why would they buy the book? And so that doesn't necessarily matter as much. So yeah, I actually wanted to, so this is sorry for being all over the place, but this is one of the things that I had as an aha moment, that I decided, okay, so I will actually create a separate platform, well, where I will try to, you know, attract people who would be interested in basically crime fiction, and again, those would be probably people like me who consume way too much true crime content, you know. That happens. You know, probably people who would be interested in creepy, you know, mysterious stories. So I will be doing a second channel with my author ID, which is going to be JD Miller, because that will be my pen name. So I will create a separate profile, a separate Instagram, and a separate YouTube channel where I will create videos pertaining to, I mean, true crime, but also, you know, just in general creepy stories that I found out. Because right now I'm working on my first book in my cozy crime, you know, series, and the book doesn't have a title. It doesn't even have a plot yet. Doesn't really even have main characters, because I'm just all over the place thinking, okay, this would be a cool character, this would be a cool character. But yes, so anyway, I'm still working on that. But in the meantime, I'm also working on the setting, and the setting it's super important. And so I want for my cozy mysteries to be situated around different places around the world, just places that I've visited, just because I realize how important setting is. And I mean, I should write what I know, right? So traveling around, that's something that I've done a lot in the past. Now I'm doing even more. So just finding out nice places, I'm doing that anyway, so might as well take advantage, right? And it's super cool because now I'm in Barcelona, and I found some super cool locations, super cool stories. So the first story, the first story that I will talk about on my other channel, which I will link in the description below, and I will probably put in a card here somewhere. Yes, so it will be about the Vampire of Barcelona, which I found to be a very interesting story that for some reason I had never heard. And it's not super popular. When I was researching it, none of the major channels had covered it. In all fairness, there is maybe not that much information about it, but it's still a very, I would say, cool and interesting story to hear. So yeah, I wanted to share that. And with that, I think I'll wrap it up. I've been talking for quite some time, and I'll see you in my next video about why I decided to get self-published. See you then. Bye.